listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Hi-Fi Preschool and Kids Weekly Training Podcast. My name is Kayla, and I am joined today with Crystal and Rachel, and we are going to dive into a special Hooray Day Game Changer episode. We are so excited. Today, we are going to be talking about how God leads us to friends and how friendship is connected into what it means for us to be part of community. So as we start talking about friends today, I thought it would be fun to ask the question about who are our friends. So Crystal and Rachel, I would love to hear from you, other than the people in this podcast studio. Who is one of your best friends and how did you become friends?
Well, first off, I hope our listeners can feel the love that happens when we're all on the podcast together, because we really are friends, which is awesome. But one of my best friends, I feel like I want to talk about my friend Kendra. Kendra and I have been friends for, goodness gracious, I guess it'd probably be around 15 years now. We used to go to church together. We no longer do. But Kendra and I are in book club together. I would say we get together at least once a week, whether it's to have Thai food or we really like watching TV together or just talking. And how we became friends, it's just one of those that was slow over time. We were in community group together at church. Our oldest kids both are the same age. They're like a week apart, which has always been kind of funny. But kind of over time, she just became that friend that I love to laugh with, that I love to cry with. One of the things that we talk about is we will always take turns on deciding where we're going to go eat. Neither of us are the friends who are always like, well, I don't care, you decide. We intentionally take turns, but there's just something about us that it's like this beautiful chemistry of we just love being around each other and being together. And yeah, it's just, I think every day I thank God for our friendship because it means so much to me. So.
Oh, I love that. That's incredible. Thanks for sharing, Crystal. Rachel, tell us about one of your friends. Who's a best friend in your circle?
Yeah, I think the person that comes to mind is my friend Katie. We met on the soccer field. Our kids are the same age. Her oldest is the same as my oldest age, and her youngest is the same age as my youngest. But I think we bonded because we realized pretty quickly that both of us have kind of offbeat humor, and our kids do too. And so we just connected well that way and quickly became great friends and trivia buddies and just really enjoy being around each other. And I will say that we also bonded in the way that we have the loudest kids ever. When we're all together, you can hear us from across the street. But, it's nice to have a friend who you can just be yourself with. And if your kids are just naturally born yelling, you don't have to apologize for it. You can just embrace it and be you and have a lot of fun together. And I'm really grateful for her friendship.
That's so fun. I love that. Well, I would share that one of my best friends, her name is Ellen. We do not live in the same city, and we used to, and we did a Bible study together through COVID. And it was just such a sweet start to our friendship, with a couple of other girls in our study. But it's also been really sweet to see how our friendship has grown and changed. So I just love getting to see friendship that stands the test of seasons.
Yeah.
And is able to grow and change as well. And so I think that's always something that's really special about friendships that continue through different seasons of life. But yeah, there's nothing that will forge people together like COVID in the midst of something that is separating everyone. So we were, that was our forge of friendship, Jesus and COVID. But we love talking about friendship and really getting to live that out. And it's so sweet to see because as we talk about community, we are able to see that God really did make us for this. He really did create us to be in community and that there are special people who the Lord brings into our lives. Sometimes those people come into our lives for seasons, and that's okay. And sometimes those people come into our lives for longer seasons, and they're great surprises. But regardless of how long someone is in our lives in a friendship capacity, there's always something to be learned, and there's always something that we can learn more about ourselves, about another person, about the Lord. And there's, just such joy and gift of a friendship that can point us more to Jesus. And so that's what we're going to be talking about this week, is how we can be excited and celebrate that God leads us to friends. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is be talking about the story of David and Jonathan, and kind of looking at their friendship. And so, Rachel, I would love for you to kind of unpack this story a little bit for us, help us understand, what's happening in David and Jonathan's friendship and what stands out about their friendship that can really help preschoolers and kids understand this concept that God leads us to friends.
Yeah. I think the story is really neat because we can see that David and Jonathan were really good friends as we see their relationship and we read in scripture. But then when you take a step back and you think about the situation they were in, it can even be surprising that they were friends and that they were such good friends because, Jonathan was the son of the king, Saul, and David served the king, but he had been anointed to be the next king. And so Jonathan could be jealous. Jonathan could have had hard feelings towards David, but he didn't. He had friendship. And I think that's just really special to think about how the way that their friendship mattered even more than this position of power or what, could have been in their situations. And Saul was jealous of David. We see even in our Bible story this week that people began to like David more than King Saul, and how he became angry and jealous because he wanted to be king. He wanted his power. He wanted everything, and he wanted to keep it at all costs. And so Jonathan could have joined in to help his father retain power and to retain, everything that he had built up. But instead, Jonathan stood up to his father and he said, he needed to stop trying to hurt David, and he protected David. And it's just incredible to see that their friendship was so strong that their situation didn't break it, that the pressures from Jonathan's family didn't break it, and that one thing that really stood out to me as I was looking through the Bible story even is that Jonathan was just a very good friend to David, despite everything that was going on. He could have pushed for his own agenda. He could have pushed for his own position, but instead he served David. And David reciprocated in friendship. He didn't hold Saul's anger or jealousy or the times that he tried to hurt him against him. And I just think that's really incredible. And that it's a good example for friendships and how God leads us to friends, because David and Jonathan were unlikely friends, when you look at the Bible story, but God led them to have such a deep connection and deep friendship. And God leads us to have that kind of connection and friendships with others as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Rachel. I love how you said there at the end, like, David and Jonathan were unlikely friends. And that's true, right? Like, David took Jonathan's job, not out of spite, but because God gave it to him. Like, Jonathan was supposed to be the next king after Saul, not David, but it was God who anointed David and said, no, you're going to be the next king. And so just imagine, the person who's coming to usurp your family's throne, you're going to be the best of friends with. But it's really cool to see the way that Jonathan, and I can't wait to get to heaven and talk to them about this one day. I think that'll just be so cool to hear about their friendship. But the way that Jonathan so selflessly stepped aside and said, no, God clearly has his hand on you. I am making a covenant with you. Here are these, different pieces that represent my kingdom that I am giving to you. So it's just a really cool story to see the unlikely friendship that has formed, and how that really made a difference in the character of David and who he was and the people that were surrounded him. So thank you for unpacking that, Rachel. That's great. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, we know that Hooray Day and Game Changer is a big Sunday or Wednesday. It's a really, really, really fun session where we elevate and celebrate the gospel. Now, you may be asking yourself, how am I going to connect the gospel to this Bible story? And if you are asking yourself that question, Crystal Mazuka is here to answer your question. So, Crystal,
100%.
tell us a little bit about this connection between this particular Bible story and how we understand that in the big scope of Scripture and the gospel.
Absolutely. Hopefully our listeners know that we did this was on purpose. We didn't like shove it in there and it's like, oh, we really want to do this story. Oh, but it's Hooray Day Game Changer. How do we make that connection? We spent a lot of time just praying and deciding what's going to be best, and what's going to fit in well. And we really felt like this was a fantastic Hooray Day Gospel Changer story. Again, in twofold. So first off is the idea that we get to make the connection to say that God made us like God leads us to friends, and that very first friendship is with Jesus. God didn't send his son to save the world so that one day we would get to spend forever with him. He didn't send his son to save the world so that we would know all the right things to do and all the wrong things to avoid. He sent his son so that we could have a relationship with him. He calls us his friends. We see Jesus himself live out this incredible friendships when he was on earth. He had these great friends that he was in community with all day, every day. And we get to be friends with God. When we become his sons and daughters, we are also his friends, which is just really, really amazing. But we also get to help preschoolers and kids see that the friends that we have as we love and follow Jesus, it is an incredible, amazing friendship. We are humble. We don't compete against one another, but we cheer each other on all the time. We love to help. We love to support. We love to be loyal. And so letting kids know that this friendship that we have with God opens up the door to friendship with other people who love God. And it's such a great and amazing thing. He leads us to have friends because we can always be surrounded by his love from him directly and through other people. And so it's a cool gospel connection to say that God sent his son Jesus so that you could be friends with him and you could be friends with other people. It's a good, great, amazing thing that they'll learn this week. So
that's awesome. Thank you, Crystal. Yeah. And, as we think about this story too, with David and Jonathan, it's so cool to think of, how Jonathan laid aside his throne. Jonathan laid aside his kingdom for David, this unsuspecting person. And, we just see the glimpses of the gospel here where, it's David who's the one that no one's looking for, who's kind of unsuspected and who comes to be the king of Israel. And it is Jesus who comes in a way that no one expected. He doesn't say the things that the Pharisees and scribes were looking for. He doesn't act in the way that they think he's going to act. And he comes to be the selfless one, to lay down his life for us. And so we so clearly see the gospel here where in a way that we see Jonathan laying down his life for his friend, stepping aside from what he thought was his and making a way for the one that God anointed and said, no, this is the one who is coming. It is Jesus who came and himself laid aside his throne, laid aside his kingdom for us so that we could be part of his kingdom and join him there. So it's just a really cool connection. We're excited to get to explore, for you listeners to get to explore with your kids and preschoolers this week. All right, last question. What kinds of tips do you have for leaders to help preschoolers and kids make friends at church? Making friends is hard sometimes. It's not always easy. And honestly, in a world of screens where we are constantly receiving information, but not necessarily making real life connections, there's some skills that have to be developed and strengthened. So I'd love to hear from the two of you. What are some tips that you have for helping preschoolers and kids making friends at church?
Well, first off, if you haven't watched this month's training video, would highly recommend it because that's exactly what it's about, is helping preschoolers and kids make friends at church. I would say one of the biggest ones that I always think of is remembering that preschoolers and kids cannot make and do not make their own play dates. They don't have cell phones. They're not in charge of their own calendars, and they can't drive. And so as we see kids and preschoolers making connections at church, let's help those adults who bring those kids get connected as well. Whether it's parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, foster parents, whoever it is. Just a little word at pickup that says, hey, yeah, I know that you're Ezra's mom, and Ezra really connected with Noah this week. I don't know if you guys have met, but I'm sure they would love getting together. They said that they both love Legos. They would love to get together and maybe play Legos together. And so just being really intentional about helping the adults of those kids make connections to foster the time and the space for those kids to build friendships.
That's such a great idea, to connect parents together and help them see, budding friendships that you've noticed in your classroom. Mm-hmm. And I would say the other thing I think is important that's really, really practical with Hi-Fi is to embrace connect time.
Yes.
To really embrace that connect time opportunity within your time week to week, and really do those activities and foster the atmosphere for your kids to connect, to learn each other's names, to learn the things they have in common, and to really begin to build those friendships so you can connect kids and their parents together, and that they can have opportunities to build deeper relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is great. Thank you both. Thank you for your wisdom and for just sharing your knowledge, and not only in scripture and in what we're studying this week, but also just your expertise for our leaders as we are continuing to learn and grow in this space of really helping preschoolers and kids make friends. So I think that's really helpful. Thank you. And listeners, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time out of your week. Maybe it's on your drive or while you're folding laundry, or, maybe you're cleaning up the Kidmin space and you're like, oh, I'll turn the podcast on. Great. Thank you for joining in and just preparing your minds and your hearts for this upcoming week and the things that you and your leaders are going to be teaching kids and preschoolers. So thanks for joining us on the podcast. So let's just keep creating spaces in our ministries where preschoolers, kids, and leaders feel loved, valued, and truly connected.